for Monday, January 14th, 2019. Ms. Warner, could you please take roll call?
Councilmember Abdelgawad.
Here.
Councilmember Barber.
Present.
Councilmember Berenson.
Present.
Councilmember Burke.
Present.
Councilmember Serko.
Present.
Councilmember Holman.
Present.
Councilmember Kellogg.
Present.
Councilmember Townsend.
Present.
Mayor Turnbow absent.
Thank you. Would you please rise and let's do the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We don't have any presentations and awards of any kind tonight, and I couldn't get Patrick Mahomes to come here for a personal appearance, and no personal appearances, so that that brings us to staff reports, and I will pass it to Mr. Fairborn.
Thank you, sir. I would ask Mr. Carteret to make a report for Development Services.
Thank you, sir. A couple of items. I want to just brief council on the end of the year building activity numbers that are part of the monthly report for December in your packet. We did see an increase, about 25%, in the number of miscellaneous permits that we issue, so we saw a lot of activity for smaller projects that our residents are doing, whether it's fences, roof repairs, things of that nature. But we did see a decrease overall in the total number of new home construction, new dwelling unit construction in the city. Typically, November, December are very active months in that area, and unusual in 2018, they were very slow for permit issuance in those 2 months. We did end up overall at 197, still a strong number for the overall metro, because a lot of communities saw a decrease in 2018 in the permits they were issuing. So I think we fell right in line, even though the number was a little bit lower than what we experienced in the 2017 year. One good note we had, because we had so many homes under construction early 2018, overall we saw an increase of about 300 dwelling units in the city, new dwelling units that were occupied in 2018. So that equates to a little over 800 new residents that we saw within the city in 2018. So we're right at the number of 8,500 dwelling units in the city. So that definitely continues to sharply increase. On development projects in the pipeline, just 2 meetings to go over. Tomorrow evening, our Planning Commission will have a public hearing on the Dean commercial plat. This was a proposed 9-lot commercial development at Fox Ridge and 58 Highway. And then on February 5th, they'll consider the 3rd phase of the Cunningham and Creekmore subdivision. So Creekmore continues to be very active in new home development, putting a lot of new lots out on the market. So that will conclude staff report for this evening, sir.
Do we have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Carteret. I would ask Chief Zimmerman to make a report for the police department.
Thank you, Mr. Fairborn. The council will probably remember that a year ago, we thought that it would be appropriate this first meeting in January to report on comparisons of calls for service and crime. Unfortunately, I won't be able to give you comparisons for surrounding jurisdictions because that information is not due to the state yet. So I'll be able to give you our comparisons, and I did just a really quick comparison with Belton, you know, our sister city. So I would like to give you some of those numbers, and then I'd be happy to answer any questions. The difference in 2017 and 2018 phone calls was pretty significant in that we were down in administrative calls, but we were up by about 413 calls to 911, and that represented nearly a 5% increase over the previous year. 2017 to 2018 reports taken were also up. Represented about a 3.76 increase in the number of police reports that we actually took. And then the comparison in CAD incidents, and that's our computer-aided dispatch system, and that includes South Metro and Raymore PD both as well, was an increase of about 625 calls or CAD incidents, or a 1.72 increase. So, obviously what we've known anecdotally and what we've talked about, those increasing calls for service, it actually has been borne out between 2017 and 2018. As far as reported crimes between 17 and 18, we were down in nearly every category, which we were happy to report, even in stealings, which it seems like we're always in the weekly report talking about stealings, but we were even down in that. I will say that the category that we did see a significant rise from 16 to 25 reported vehicles stolen, an increase of 9 overall for the year, continues to be what I talk about a lot when I come before you all, is individuals leaving cars running. We nearly never take a report in which the vehicle was broken into and stolen. Usually keys are available, cars are left unlocked, and so we always, advise people, make it difficult. Don't leave those cars running, when it's cold outside and all that, because that's when we see those vehicles taken. We did work with a number of other jurisdictions here in Cass County, Harrisonville, Peculiar, and others on some auto theft rings that were working in the area. And when we got some folks put in jail, those auto thefts stopped. So, we're happy to report that we identified many of those people and got those auto thefts stopped. As I mentioned, when we talk about a comparison, a number of crimes per 1,000 population, Raymore remained unchanged from 2017, I'm happy to report, at 22.2, and Belton was 31.9 crimes per 1,000 population. So I'm happy to answer any questions. I do have some information that's pretty complicated on case clearance and all, but our detectives are doing an excellent job in clearing those crimes, and actually had fewer crimes assigned, or fewer cases assigned, but actually had a higher clearance rate. So we're really happy to report that as well. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Mr. Barrington?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Chief, thank you. Great report and great information. When you mentioned that we had apprehended some of the people that were stealing some of the cars, they were apprehended by Raymore PD?
Actually, we work jointly with some of those other jurisdictions that I mentioned, and we're able to get some felony charges against individuals because of the multiple crimes in other jurisdictions.
Very good. That was great to hear. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Mr. Holman?
Thank you, sir. Just more of a comment than anything, Chief. That's good news across the board. Certainly our calls are up, a little bit more work for our dispatch, around the 3 to 5% range. But those calls can vary from a lost dog to my car was broken into to a burglary, of course, as you well know. The fact that roughly our Part 1 crimes are down, the more serious crimes that most people think of, that's the real key measure. And to put that in context, at the same time, our population increased, as Mr. Carteret just told us. So double bonus for you there. That's really good. I would attribute a lot of that to the professionalism and the interaction of our police department with our citizenry, and that's the key, along with the education piece that you've been doing in conjunction with the communications department. That's really good stuff. Please keep that up. In fact, put that on steroids and keep it going, because that's the kind of thing that people really helps out. I think that's great stuff, and you bore out in your report tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I had a question. When you talk about the cars being stolen, there was a theft ring that stole cars. The modern vehicles cannot be started without a key. There's a transponder in there, so a key has to be with the vehicle to get it started. I know older vehicles, you can, what they used to call hot wire, you can hot wire and get them stolen. Do these modern, or these theft rings, do they have a way to circumvent that key code and get around these, or are they just taking cars that have been left with keys in them or unattended? And
many times, and these are crimes of opportunity, we see that a lot of times with theft from auto, not just the auto theft, but when people are stealing things out of cars. People are leaving valuables in cars, laptops, money, phones, along with keys. And so, those individuals who are trying the car doors or looking in cars, they're going to go to the easiest target. So yes, many times the keys are available.
thank you. Next, Jim.
Thank you, Chief. I would ask Mr. Mustine to make a report for Parks and Recreation.
Thank you, sir. Council, I want to take an opportunity tonight to recognize a couple of my staff members. As you know, we are moving forward to building several new playgrounds or replacing most of our playgrounds over the next 3 or 4 years. And there's an opportunity in our field to have a certification called Certified Playground Safety Inspector. It is one of the more difficult examinations and certifications to acquire in our field. In fact, 60% of people who take it for the first time fail the test. But we felt like it was important, and at my urging and then demanding that a couple of my guys go in and take this test. Steve Rulo, my park superintendent, and Gus Booz, they're both here. Gus is our park maintenance. They both took this test in December and passed it on the first try. What this does is it allows us to not only take care of our own playgrounds, but we can audit other playgrounds. People, Belton can call in and do an audit, and just from a safety perspective, playgrounds are the highest risk that we have in the Parks Department. I mean, those things, that's where kids play and get hurt the most. And so having that ability to audit and take care of our own equipment is extremely important. And we're really proud of Steve and Gus, and we just wanted to bring them here tonight and allow you guys to see that. And we'll make the park board known next week as well that they've taken this test, and it's a 3-year certification, and they don't get to redo this with CEUs. They have to retake this test every 3 years to maintain that certification. So we're just really proud of them and want to take the opportunity to let you guys know that they've done a good job. Thank you.
Any questions or comments? Thank you, Nathan. Mr. Fearborn?
Thank you, sir. Just a reminder to the council that next week is the Dr. Martin Luther King holiday, Day of Remembrance, so there will be no work session next Monday night. That concludes staff reports for this evening, sir.
Thank you. And we don't have any committee reports, and so we'll go right on to the consent agenda. We have 4 items on the consent agenda, and I'd entertain a motion to dispose of all or part of the consent agenda. Mr. Holman?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented to include item A, City Council meeting minutes of December 10th, 2018, B, appointments and affirmations of membership to incentive district boards, C, appointment of Chief Jan Zimmerman as Executive Director of SAFE, and D, disposal of surplus property.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. All right, and next is unfinished business. And could I please have the second reading of Bill 3414 by title only?
The second reading of Bill 3414 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, vacating the west 8 feet of a utility easement located on Lot 280 in the West Brook at Creekmore 9th Plat, Raymore, Cass County, Missouri.
I would entertain a motion to dispose of the second read of Bill 3414. Mr. Holman?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I move that we approve Bill 3414, the easement vacation at 914 Creekmore Drive.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. All right, we'll go right to item B of unfinished business. Could I please have the second reading of Bill 3415 by title only?
The second reading of Bill 3415 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, vacating a 25-foot water main easement within the Timber Trails subdivision located in Section 17, Township 46 North, Range 32 West in the City of Raymore, Cass County, Missouri.
Can I have a motion to dispose of Bill 3415? Mr. Holman?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. I move that we approve Bill 3415, the easement vacation of the Timber Trails subdivision.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. All right, we'll go to C. Can I please have the second reading of Bill 3416 by title only?
The second reading of Bill 3416 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, amending Section 445.030 of the Unified Development Code.
I'd entertain a motion to dispose of the second read of Bill 3416. Mr. Holman?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. I move that we approve Bill 3416, the 29th Amendment to the Unified Development Code.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. So we'll go to D. Could I have the second reading of Bill 3397 by title only?
The second reading of Bill 3397 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Tasco LLC for the Recreation Park Pedestrian Bridge, City Project Number 18-293-201, in the amount of $49,000.
I would entertain a motion to dispose of the second read of Bill 3397. Mr. Holman?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. I move that we approve the award of contract for the Recreation Park Pedestrian Bridge Replacement Bill 3397.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Oh, wait, no discussion, sorry. Mr. Dalgwad.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. I have a few questions still about this. I know when it came up last time for the first read, I asked a few questions. I did get some information back from staff, but I have a few questions. First of all, I noticed that when we put it out to bid, that the bid came back as $69,000, and then I read that Parks worked on that and got it down to $49,000. When we put it out to bid the first time, were we looking at a bridge comparable to what's there, or was that looking at this concrete bridge that we're voting on tonight? That's my first question. Second question, I'm wondering, in installing this big concrete bridge, how's the installation of that going to be different than a bridge similar to the one that's there? I'm thinking smaller in size. Like, are we going to have to do a lot of work to the creek? Are we going to have to tear up a bunch of the trees? I know, speaking on behalf of a lot of the neighbors that live around that park, and I've mentioned before, they really like the natural look. I think they're going to be unhappy with a great big concrete bridge. They're going to be especially unhappy if we have to tear up a bunch of those trees to put in this great big concrete bridge. So starting with those two questions, please.
Thank you. To answer the first question, originally when we started this project, we did do some, we brought in some engineers to do coring and basically test to see what could be done there. Well, what we found out, the original plan was to do basically, I believe it was a 20-foot span bridge that would have required a lot of work. What we did find out was when we did the boring and the testing is that the subsurface wasn't suitable for the abutments. And so that really changed what we were going to do, because it was going to take a lot of removal and then bring back in a lot of engineered material and concrete. It really increased our budget for that. So that's where we stepped back. We took a step back and reevaluated what we were going to do. Does that answer your question on that? In terms of what the original, what we were looking at was the bridge. What we bid and why the price changed so much is that we had additional asphalt to and from. So we were going to repair some of that asphalt up into Moon Valley and from where the crossing is to the Rec Park Trail. It's the asphalt that took us over budget. So when we negotiated that, we took the asphalt out. The bridge, what we bid as far as the culvert, that remained the same. We didn't change any of that. We just removed the asphalt. So that's the difference in price as far as what the original bid was as to what you see tonight. The other thing, Mike could probably help me a little bit more, but I'll muddle through this a little bit. But the concrete culvert is less obtrusive in terms of what we're doing in that area. The 20-foot span bridge would have required a lot of clearing and a lot of work and really taken a toll on the landscape around that area, where as this culvert, we'll have to take out some scrub trees and some stuff like that, but it won't be near what it would have been with a bridge. So we felt like this was a good compromise to keep the area, you know, more natural looking and just make it look more like a trail and less like a bridge. And we were able to fit that within the budget, and that's how we came to where we were at.
Yes, Mr. Albanese?
Thank you. A couple of other questions. Can you remind me how old that bridge is? How long has it been there?
Yes, that bridge was built as an Eagle Scout project right after the trail was put in 2007, the Geobond project. So it, for a hand-built bridge, it's about 11 years old, and it's taken its toll in terms of some flooding and stuff. It is, frankly, it needs to be replaced and repaired. So it didn't last as long as some bridges do, but it also takes a lot of volume of water through that area in heavy rains.
And do you know what the cost of that bridge was when it was put in?
I do not, no.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Oh, Mr. Barrington, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. A couple more questions. I know that bridge, one of the advantages is it does allow us to move lawn equipment across, so there's a clear advantage there. And talking with Councilman Abdelgawad, I think one of the issues was we wanted to look more natural. I don't know that there's a better option, but I know we can't come back and put the stamped siding that we opted out of and the stamped concrete floor it's got that we could have put in. But what improvements could we do to it later to maybe enhance that bridge? Could we change the side rail, or so 5 or 10 years down the road, or even 5 or 10 months down the road, if we wanted to enhance that bridge and make it look a little better, what could we do to it to enhance that?
Well, it's my understanding once the culvert is purchased and in place, the culvert is what it is unless we remove that completely. We could come back in at a later time and do some handrails and things of that nature. General landscaping, I mean, we do have a horticulturist on staff now, so we can do some plantings and some general landscaping to kind of dress it up around there. We've already got trees and some things planned. We've had a request and a donation for a memorial bench in that area from a grandmother who walks, and they want a bench down there so she can tell her kids, go to the bench, wait on me to get down to the trail. So we've got some ideas in place for that, but outside of a complete tear out and rebuild, I don't know what other options there would be on that.
Final question. I'm sure this is going to last a lot more than 11 years. What's our life expectancy on this bridge, just roughly, do we know?
Mike, you might have a better idea on that one.
Over 50 years.
Perfect. All right. Thank you both very much.
Got another one from Ms. Dalgawad? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Have we approached any Boy Scouts that are working on Eagle projects maybe to replace this bridge with one similar to what was put there? We could build, in 50 years, we could build possibly that bridge that's there 5 times.
We have not approached any Eagle Scouts or potential scouts for a project like that. Typically, they come to us with a project. We don't necessarily go and recruit them for that. There is not anybody on our list of potential scouts that have projects in the line, and you know, I wouldn't even know outside of reaching out to the local troop who would if anybody's coming up has a project in place. But no, ma'am, to answer your question, we did not reach out to them.
Go ahead. Yep.
And I think those are all my questions, but just to wrap up my thoughts, I don't doubt, I know for certain that bridge needs to be replaced, but I am not certain that the people who use it all the time and who live over there are going to be happy with this. I feel like it's, the pictures we got kind of look like an eyesore. I'm concerned about all of the trees that are going to have to be torn out to put it in. I am happy that some of the asphalt's going to be replaced. That needs to be done as well. But I would prefer maybe even something lower budget that we have to redo every 10 years, in my opinion, would be preferable to this concrete structure.
Anybody else? We have a motion and we have a second for Bill 3397. All those in favor? 1, 2, and that's me, 6, 7. Opposed? 1. Excuse me, we'll go to item E, Could I please have the second reading of Bill 3417 by title only?
The second reading of Bill 3417 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri approving a memorandum of understanding between the City of Raymore, Missouri and Variety Kansas City in the amount of $135,000 for the design and construction services for an all-inclusive spray ground and playground at TB Hanna Station.
I'd entertain a motion to dispose the second read of Bill 3417. Mr. Holman?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. I move that we approve Bill 3417, the memorandum of understanding with Variety KC.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Mr. Barrington?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Just one really quick comment. I've heard from quite a few constituents just recently a lot of great comments about this. So I wanted to pass along to the city staff, the park board, and all the park employees and those involved with reaching out with Variety KC and making this work. I think it's a fantastic partnership, and the word has spread very quickly, and a lot of people are very happy to see this. So great job, everybody involved. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Holman?
I would concur with Councilmember Berenson's comments, and I would verify state that this is an offshoot and a result of Mr. Musteen's vision of the all-inclusive playground, not just the ADA-compliant playground up at Hawk Ridge. That's where the impetus came from this, and it is your vision, sir, that is making our parks and recreation better by the day, and that's the reason that we ended up with these folks coming to us and wanting to do this wonderful project. Thank you.
I'm going to go ahead and jump on the comments here. Mr. Musteen came out and spoke to a civic group that I belong to, and we normally give our speakers about 15 minutes, and I think he spoke for 45 minutes, and it was just about this project, so his enthusiasm was, just through the roof, and I knew it would be, and that's why I wanted to come out and talk to the importance of this and the partnership. And the first, we're going to have a lot of firsts with our little suburb of Raymore that it's really impressed me, and I concur with Mr. Holman and Mr. Barrington that the staff did a great job on this. And this is one of these projects too. If we would have done this first in the GO bond when we did everything, we wouldn't have got to this point with this special splash park. So this is kind of neat that this all got pulled together. So thank you. We do have a motion and a second, and all those approve? Motion passes unanimously. Almost got myself off track there. So we'll go to F. Could I please have the second reading of Bill 3418?
The second reading of Bill 3418 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri approving an agreement between the City of Raymore, Missouri and Michelle Biondo, professional grant writer, for grant writing and fund development services.
I would entertain a motion to dispose the second read of Bill 3418. Mr. Holman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. I move that we approve Bill 3418, the award of contract to Michelle Biondo, professional grant writing services.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? 7 yes. All those opposed? 1 opposed. Passes 7-1. All right, we'll go to item G. Could I please have the second reading of Bill 3419 by title only?
The second reading of Bill 3419 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Municipal Waste Services, LLC for the city facility trash and recycling services, city project number 19-001, in the amount of $4,260.
I would entertain a motion of the second read of Bill 3419. Mr. Holman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. I move that we approve Bill 3419, award of contract for city facility trash and recycling services.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. All right, we'll go to item H. Could I please have a second reading of Bill 3411 by title only?
The second reading of Bill 3411 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to execute a public service agreement with Oates, Inc. for the provision of a transportation services to residents of Raymore that are disabled and/or 60 years of age or older.
I would entertain a motion to dispose of the second read of Bill 3411. Mr. Holman?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. I move that we approve Bill 3411, award of contract to the Oates Bus Service.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Oh, Ms. Dalgawad?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Just a quick question. I've already taken a couple of calls on this. When are we expecting information to get out about this service to people?
First thing tomorrow morning. We never
Awesome.
presume on the council, but they are actually starting on Wednesday.
So the first bus will be Wednesday this week?
That's correct.
Excellent. Thank you much.
I was hoping somebody would ask.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, and that takes us to new business, and this is something new for the city. This is the first time we're going to be doing this. This was a mandate that was brought down by the state. So it's the first time we've done that. I hope I don't fumble in going through this, but item A, what we're going to do is we're going to go through each one of the TIFs. There's 4 of them, and we're going to have we're going to open up a public hearing. We're going to have a staff report. Then we're going to have discussion. Anybody who wants to speak can speak. Then we're going to close the public hearing, and we're going to do that for each one of them. We actually won't be voting for anything. This is just for informational purposes, the way I understand. Is that correct?
Exactly, sir.
Okay. So let's get started here. The first one is it's the Foxwood Village Shops TIF plan, and I'll go ahead and open the public hearing and ask for a staff report.
Thank you, sir. And I would ask Mr. Tapp and Special Economic Development Council to make staff reports.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem and members of City Council. Mayor Pro Tem did such an amazing job eloquently describing what we're talking about this evening. I'll just go right through the slides. So the first TIF district we want to discuss is the Foxwood Village Shops TIF. And what's inside there, so each TIF will cover a map briefly, as well as some fundamental numbers tied to that TIF. So if you see on the staff report, we have a map, and it's basically the area on the other side of 58 Highway from Foxwood Village. And Culver's is presently the only user inside that district. And we have a couple of undeveloped lots, and certainly been coordinating with the developer or the property owner on a few concepts there. So just wanted to make you aware of where it is. And then the current status update, or the current progress for the TIF district. We'll cover it blazingly fast. So the current status is inactive. We've had some development, and we've had some interest in the other 2 undeveloped lots. You'll notice there's no relocated residences during the reporting period, as well as no relocated businesses during the reporting period. And the number of parcels acquired through the use of eminent domain on this project is 0. The estimated new job creation for this project was projected at 142, and since we have Culver's, we have approximately 50 of the 142 projected. Now let's cover the TIF revenue deposits. So the pilots, or the property tax side of the TIF, the total received since inception is $78,168.16. And on the sales tax side, or the EAT side, we have $380,617.25. It is a pay-as-you-go TIF, which is our preferred method, with the TIF bond financing it. The original assessed value prior to development was $3,149, pretty typical for undeveloped ag land. Afterwards, with Culver's and the traffic signal and other improvements to the site, it's assessed at $330,170. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, that closes the staff report portion of Foxwood Village Shops TIF.
Thank you, Mr. Tapp. Is there any questions? This is no questions. This is a public hearing, so I'd ask any person that'd like to speak, come forward, state your name and address for the record, and limit your comments to 5 minutes or less. All right, I don't see anybody that's coming forward, so I'll go ahead and close the public hearing, and we'll go right into the second one, which is the Raymore Gallery TIF plan. And I'll go ahead and open the public hearing on that and ask for a staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. The Raymore Galleria TIF is by far the largest TIF currently as we stand now inside the city of Raymore. And the map is rather complicated. There's been some amendments, but just wanted to just show the city council the general makeup of all the different project areas. So pretty much Lowe's came in, and then everything else was built around it, to summarize it in a very brief terms. And I won't go into a whole lot of the dates or details unless there are some further questions from the city council. If not, I would like to cover the current progress or status of the Raymore Galleria TIF. Excellent. So the Raymore Galleria TIF, and holistic approach here, it's inactive, although it's probably by far been the most active TIF in Raymore from a financial creation standpoint. There are a couple of still remaining undeveloped portions of the Raymore Galleria TIF, and they're more generally described as Raymore Galleria North, which is the north portion, so north of 58 Highway, where the signalized intersection rests. You have Firestone and Belfonte's right there. The other project area is project area number 4, which is south of Sam's Club, and we've had varying levels of interest there as well. So there's definitely been some interest on that track, as well as Raymore Galleria North. Again, with this one, there's 0 relocated residences or businesses, nor were there any parcels acquired through the use of eminent domain. The projected jobs was 153, and the project has definitely blown that out of the water with an actual estimate of 458. The pilot or the property tax side of things, we have roughly $3.2 million. And then on the sales tax side, or the EATS side, economic activity taxes, that is roughly $10.1 to $10.2 million. Again, pay-as-you-go TIF model. There are TIF notes as well as a bond tied to this project. The assessed value is $10,000, give or take. And then post-development, we're at $7.6 million. So a very successful project, and we still have a couple of areas to go. That closes the staff report portion, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Any questions? Mr. Holman?
Mr. Tapp, if you don't mind.
Yes, sir.
So just checking for understanding, both this and the previous, the Foxwood Village shops, is it a correct assessment to say that prior to these TIFs, these were basically empty fields, agricultural fields, and that without the TIFs, these projects probably would not have gone, especially in a smaller town or suburb like we are? And even though we would not have realized, nor would have any of the taxing districts involved realized the full amount of the taxes, we still get quite a bit more tax revenue for us in all those taxing districts because of this economic activity. Is that a fair assessment, sir?
Yes, sir. I can address that question overall holistically. I was not here during the creation of both TIFs, but in general terms, yes, that is the whole goal of a TIF, is to take a piece that has been undeveloped and to develop it or redevelop it.
And the reason I ask, before I came on council, actually before I was on planning and zoning, I didn't understand this at all, and I know there's a lot of people that still don't, so it's just kind of good to have that refresher, I think, once in a while, sir. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Any other questions? Again, this is a public hearing, and I would ask any person who'd like to speak, please come forward, state your name and address for the record, and limit your comments to 5 minutes or less. And since no one's coming forward, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing, and I'll go to our third one, which is the Highway 58 and Dean Avenue TIF. I'll go ahead and open the public hearing on it and ask for a staff report.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. This is the latest and greatest TIF district inside the city of Raymore. You all are probably very familiar with this project. It took over a 3-acre piece of ground. I call it a remnant of the overall Galleria development, and Cadence Commercial Real Estate located Panda Express in its freestanding location, as well as Qdoba, Mexican Eats, and then the multi-tenant commercial building with Mod Pizza, Firehouse, K Jewelers, and Freezing Moo. I'm probably missing one there, so my apologies. But highly successful TIF on the corner of 58 Highway and Dean Avenue. And so covering the financials, it again is Cadence Commercial Real Estate who developed it. Fully operational, 100% leased. It's been a fantastic project. Again, 0 relocated residences or businesses or parcels acquired through eminent domain. The projected job total is 50, and we put in 50 here, but I do believe it's probably higher. We just haven't gotten specific employment numbers back from all the newest retailers there, as it's a fairly new project. The pilots, the property tax side, since it's a new TIF, we don't have those posted yet, but we will come this next go around or next year cycle when I present to City Council. However, the EATs have already come in, and I'd have to check with the finance department, but as to who's tied into these numbers. But what we have for the sales tax side is $132,000. So I believe by my estimates, that's not full capacity yet either. So you'll see some larger numbers for sure when I come back to you in about a year's time. Again, pay-as-you-go TIF, that's our preferred method. And then, of course, the assessed value prior to development, as Councilmember Holman had indicated, was $22,810 because it had an existing, although vacant, house or structure on the property. So had a little bit of an increase of the value there. But then post-development, it's roughly $850,000, and I would believe that that's not even the full number as well. So that closes the staff report portion. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Tapp. Any questions for Mr. Tapp? All right, we're going to do this again. This is a public hearing, so I would ask anyone who'd like to speak, please come forward, state your name and address for the record, and limit your comments to 5 minutes or less. And since nobody's come forward, I will go ahead and close the public hearing and go to our last one, which is the Good Ranch Area TIF. And I'll go ahead and open the public hearing and again ask for a staff report.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. I'm getting my workout this evening, coming up and down the chair. But yes, this is our 4th and final TIF to cover tonight. It is the Good Ranch Redevelopment Area TIF. As you all are probably fairly aware, that's roughly Interstate 49 with the North Cass Parkway interchange on both. For this TIF, it's on both sides of North Cass Parkway. It was established in 2006 by this very body, this governing body. The developers, Good Otis LLC, Gib Good is the main contact. It is inactive and has been. No projects were initiated during the TIF window, which is the 10 years. As soon as you establish a redevelopment area, that 10-year clock starts ticking with the project areas or projects. No relocated residences or businesses or parcels acquired. There was projected 0 jobs. No actual jobs have been created. No pilots, no EATs due to the inactivity. It was a pay-as-you-go format again with a TIF bond. You can see the assessed value prior and then the assessed valuation. There's been no development, so that's zeroed out. And that closes the staff report portion, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Tapp? Mr. Townsend?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Mr. Tapp, just to clarify the boundary for this one, I think you said North Cass was the north boundary, but it's...
It was on both sides of North Cass Parkway. I apologize if I...
No, that's fine, just my hearing. And then just to clarify for all of these, to Mr. Holman's point on educating us on the TIF planning, TIF side of this financing, what other payment methods are there with pay-as-you-go? And if you could define pay-as-you-go, and then what are the other payment methods?
So to cover pay-as-you-go, the development itself pays for the TIF on the pilot and the EAT side. The other option is the city backs some version or portion of the financial backing of the project. And Mr. Fearborn and myself and Mr. Cataret, all of the economic development team, firmly believe in the application of pay-as-you-go. What I tell developers, I don't mean to be kidding here, but unless you bring Disney World to Raymore, you're not going to go beyond pay-as-you-go. So it's got to be a sizable project, sir.
I see. So in this version of payment, the burden is borne by the developer
Correct, and the development itself.
and development itself? Thank you.
Yes, yes, sir.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, this is a public hearing. I'd ask any person who would like to speak, please come forward, state your name and address for the record, and limit your comments to 5 minutes or less. Nobody's come forward, so I'll close the public hearing, and thank goodness that's over. So, first time, kind of like the AFC Championship game in Kansas City for the first time. So, anyway, we'll go to item B. Could I please have the reading of Bill 3424 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3424 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri terminating tax increment financing within the Good Ranch redevelopment area, dissolving the special allocation fund, and authorizing certain actions.
Could I have a staff report?
Thank you, sir. I would ask Mr. Tapp and Special Economic Development Council to make staff report.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Fearborn. As I just covered, the Good Ranch redevelopment TIF was inactive for the first 10 years, and in counseling with our ED legal counsel, they recommended that a formal action by this governing body be presented and reviewed that would officially terminate that TIF, which will clear the slate or offer up a clean start for any new TIF, which we are very active down there. So this is more of a cleaning mechanism. I've spoken with the property owners / developers, Good Otis, and they are in agreement as well. So I don't believe they're here in attendance tonight, but I have had a conversation with Good Otis. And that closes the staff report, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Tapp. Any questions? Okay, I'd entertain a motion for Bill 3424. Mr. Holman?
Just a point of order before the motion, sir. I believe that the applicant or landowner, property owner, did just walk in if he wanted to make any comments.
All right, would the applicant and landowner like to come forward and speak? Mr. Holman?
I believe he's indicated in the negative, sir, that he does not want to speak, so therefore I move that we approve Bill 3424, termination of the Good Ranch tax increment financing plan.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those approve? Motion passes unanimously. All right, we're going to go to item C, and nothing seems to be normal on this agenda tonight, so bear with me again on this, and I don't have any chief thing to add to this. This next item, we already have a public hearing open on it, so I'm going to ask for the reading of Bill 3400 by title only, and there is a public hearing open on this item right now. Thank you.
The reading of Bill 3400 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, amending the zoning map from BP Business Park District to PUD Planned Unit Development District, a 136.38 acre tract of land located in the west half of Section 29 and part of the northeast quarter of Section 30 in Township 46 North, Range 32 West, Raymore, Cass County, Missouri.
Thank you. Can I have a staff report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. I would ask Mr. Carteret to make a staff report on this agenda item.
Thank you, sir. The property owner, Good Otis LLC, the prospective development or developer of the property, and the city have been having discussions, continuing discussions on this project, both the development side of the project as well as financing for the project. But to allow additional time to finalize those details, we once again, hopefully for the last time, would request that the council continue the public hearing and the actual request for the reclassification of zoning to be continued to the February 25th council meeting. That time, we all believe we will be ready to move forward. That concludes staff report.
Thank you. Any questions of staff? All right. I'd entertain a motion to keep the public hearing open and continue Bill 3400 to the February 25th, 2019 meeting. Mr. Holman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. I will move that we continue Bill 3400 to the February 25th, 2019 meeting of the City Council and keep the public hearing open.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. All right, thank you. Similar on this next one, item D. So could I have reading of Resolution 1866? And again, we already have a public hearing open on this as well, so thank you.
The reading of Resolution 18-66 by title only. A resolution of the Raymore City Council approving the Raymore Industrial Development Preliminary Plan located in the west half of Section 29 and part of the northeast quarter of Section 30 in Township 46 North, Range 32 West, Raymore, Cass County, Missouri.
Could I have a staff report?
Thank you, sir. I would ask Mr. Carteret to make the staff report on this agenda item.
Thank you, sir. This would be the same scenario as the previous case with this preliminary plat for the development. So we do request that the council continue the public hearing and the request for the approval of the preliminary plat, continue it to your February 25th meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. And I didn't do it on the last one, but since it's a public hearing, should I ask if there's anybody that wants to come forward? Is that necessary on this? Okay, Jonathan's shaking his head, so I'll go through the legalese on that. So this is a public hearing, so I'd ask anybody that would like to speak to please come forward, state your name and address for the record, and limit your comments for 5 minutes or less. So nobody's come forward. So now I would entertain a motion to keep the public hearing open and continue Bill 3400 to the Resolution 1866 to the February 25th, 2019 meeting. Mr. Holman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. I will move that we continue Resolution 1866, the Raymore Industrial Development Preliminary Plan, to our meeting of the City Council on February 25th, 2019, and keep the public hearing open.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? The motion passes unanimously. Thank you. All right. Next is item E. Could I have the first read of Bill 3420 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3420 by title only. An ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, approving the final plat for Westbrook at Creekmore 15th plat, lots 406 through 431 and tract RR, located in Section 4, Township 46 North, Range 32 West, Raymore, Cass County, Missouri.
Could I have a staff report?
Thank you, sir. I would ask Mr. Carteret to make a staff report on this agenda item.
Thank you, sir. Bill 3420 is a request for approval of the 15th phase of the Westbrook at Creekmore subdivision. This is a proposed 26-lot single-family phase that's located to the west of Creekmore Drive, just north of Ranick Drive, which was recently completed. Cooper Land Development is the developer for this phase of Westbrook. At its December 18th meeting, the Planning and Zoning Commission voted 8-0 to accept the proposed findings of fact that are included in your packet and forward this request for final plat approval to the council with a recommendation of approval. I included the comments from the engineering division as well as the development agreement that specifies the requirements for development of this phase as part of your packet. So that would conclude staff report, sir.
Thank you. Any questions of staff? No questions. I would entertain a motion to dispose of Bill 3420. Mr. Holman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. I move that we approve Bill 3420, Westbrook at Creekmore 15th final plat.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? None. All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. So we'll go to item F. And could I please have the first reading of Bill 3422 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3422 by title only. An ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, authorizing an amendment to the fiscal year 2013 capital budget.
Could I have staff report?
Thank you, sir. In fiscal year 2013, the City Council established an amount in the Capital Improvement Fund of $100,000 to fund a police firing range sometime in the future. The firing range was procured from Mr. J.R. Pesic on property that he owns just north of Harrisonville off of 291. There were improvements done at the time with contemplated improvements to be continued into the future, as well as the annual lease payment that the city makes to Mr. Pesic for this particular piece of property. At this time, the Capital Improvement Fund has a current balance of $46,842. As discussed with the City Council at a recent work session, it would be staff's proposal that rather than holding that money in the Capital Improvement Fund, it would be better to move it into the Restricted Revenue Fund so it could be used for future expenses to include the purchase of a classroom, which is a capital expense, some additional construction work to be done, specifically beefing up the berms on either side. And then we estimate, once those two items are completed, that there would be a balance in the Restricted Revenue Fund of approximately $13,842, which could be used then as an operating expense to continue the lease payments for a couple of more years. That concludes staff report on this item, sir.
Thank you. Any questions of staff? No questions? Okay, I'd entertain a motion for the first reading of Bill 3422. Mr. Holman?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. I move that we approve Bill 3422, budget amendment for the police firing range.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those approve? Motion passes unanimously. All right. We'll go to item G. Could I have the first reading of Bill 3423 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3423 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, amending the fiscal year 2019 operating budget.
Could I have staff report?
Thank you, sir. Also at that same work session, we brought forward recommendations that I was going to be making to the City Council as far as appointments were concerned. Two specific, that Mr. Icky was being promoted to Assistant City Manager, and that we had hired an accountant for the Finance Department to replace the position of Assistant Finance Director. What this particular bill does is the budget amendments that are associated with the organizational chart pages and the specific department pages for the Finance Department, the Administration Department, and the Communications Department to reflect those changes that are being done, specifically moving Mr. Icky into administration out of communications. It also does a budget amendment that does not impact the budget, with the exception of the fact of where the funds are actually being spent. And the budget amendment is in the amount of $106,398 being transferred from the Communications Department into the Administration Department to reflect the payment department for Mr. Icky's expenses. That concludes staff report on this item, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Fairborn. Any questions of staff? No questions. I'd entertain a motion for Bill 3423. Mr. Holman?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. I move that we approve Bill 3423, budget amendment for the department's organization charts.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those approve? Motion passes unanimously. All right, we'll go to our last item here, item H. And could I have the first reading of Bill 3421 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3421 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with a graphic resource for printing and mailing services for the review.
Can I have a staff report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. I would ask Mr. Icky to make staff report on this item.
Thank you, sir. The contract before the council tonight is with a graphic resource that provides printing and mailing services specifically for the review and the Parks and Recreation program guide, both of which are printed together and mailed to every household and business in Raymore. The contract with a graphic resource expired on December 31st. In December, staff sent out a request for bidders and received 4 bids back from a graphic resource and others. Graphic resource was the lowest and best bidder for this project, and we recommend approval of the contract. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Eke. Any questions of staff? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion for Bill 3421. Mr. Holman?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. I move that we approve Bill 3421, agreement with a graphic resource for printing and mailing services.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Mr. Holman?
Thank you. More of a comment than anything. Mr. Eke, I just wanted to congratulate your department. We've been doing the review for quite some time, so you know the item in front of us is whether these people, they actually do the physical printing of it. So you give them the material, your department does, they put the ink and the pictures in there and then mail it out to us. It's always been a good publication, but it's really shot up in appearance and content lately. I thought this last one was one of the best ones I've seen. The photographs are really sharp. They're really thought-provoking, and the material in there is very good as well. So good job.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any additional comments or questions? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. All right. We made it. Yeah, almost. Not quite. We're not going to kick a field goal. No, we're not. So this brings us to the public comments part of the agenda tonight. Please identify yourself for the record and keep your comments to a maximum of 5 minutes. I know we had a big crowd tonight, but nobody wants to come forward. So we'll go to council communication. So tonight, I'm going to start down with Mr. Barrington gets to go first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. In keeping with the football theme that you started tonight, I will say it was great that we had home field advantage. And I guess we should thank our fans. A little presumptuous to say fans, but I'll thank Gus and Steve back there and congratulate you on passing your test. So nice work, gentlemen. I also want to thank our defensive coordinator or police chief for the crime stats you gave tonight. Ma'am, those were great to hear that some of those were going down quite a bit. And I certainly would encourage you to keep your foot on the pedal there, and we hope to see that continue. So thank you. Congratulations to our new assistant head coach, Mike Eke. Very well deserved, and we look forward to seeing you in action here soon too. And then to our backup quarterback tonight, Kevin, great job. Not a lot of playing time this year, but you've done a great job, and it was a good game plan. A couple trick plays there and some long passes, a little longer game than usual, but you pulled it off and did a great job. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barrington. I didn't know how this was going to happen, what was going to happen tonight by doing this, but I'm kind of glad everybody's kind of catching on here a little bit. We'll go, Mr. Dalgawad, I'll let you go next. Thanks.
I think I'll let everybody just think about that a little longer. I don't have anything tonight. Thanks.
Mr. Holman?
Well, thank you, sir. You guys are a tough act to follow between you and John tonight. I don't know if I can do that. I think you did throw a couple of sidearm passes, and there may have been one no-look one in there. So my first point is congratulations to you. You handled a good, smooth meeting, and we got through some tricky stuff on the agenda we typically don't see. Well done tonight, Mayor Pro Tem. Congratulations to Gus and Steve. The continuing, I've said for quite some time, the staff that we have does an incredible job, and they are the most professional in the area, if not in a larger swath. But the continuing build on that professionalism, the continuing education, the accolades, the honors, the expertise that we continue to build, it seems like on an every couple week basis we're hearing about something new. That is wonderful stuff. That's excellent that we're looking for those kinds of things and those kinds of opportunities. Kudos to all of you and to your staff, Mr. Fearborn. Thank you. And then the last one, I would like to thank Mr. Crass and the Public Works Department for their untiring devotion this weekend to the 10-inch plus snowstorm. We get a few bumps here and there, but the fact is that when you get 10 inches of snow dumped on you in 24 hours, there's only so many places to put it. And I thought you guys did a great job. I thought the roads were cleared quickly. We had to go back and do a little bit of spot cleaning here and there, but very well done, especially when compared with your peers in the area, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. Mr. Circo?
Thank you, Pro Tem. I guess I can just ring on a few things, basically. Congratulations, Chief, to your Executive Director, to the SAFE program. That's quite an accomplishment. I know you take care of that and you do a good job. Thank you to Gus and Steve again, and Nathan. You guys do a great job out there, and that's, again, to Nathan, while, you know, KC Variety came here because they're very picky, I heard from Nate before, and they're very laid back at who they're going to draw money to. They just don't give money to anybody, but to see what we have here, what Nate and them do, what the Parks and Rec do, really excited them to want to be able to be part and have a contract with this city for the future, and that's awesome. That's really good. That says a lot for you guys. Congrats on Mr. Icky for your new promotion. I know you do a great job. You've done fantastic in where you're at now in your position, and you're just going to do better. And again, thanks to the city. You did a very good job, of course, on the snow. Very wet, heavy snow. A lot of work, a lot of work, and now they call for another snowstorm Saturday, possibly a powder snow, but a wind, and then sub-freezing zero weather. So I know the crews will be out there working hard, and kudos to them, because it takes a lot out of them, the machinery and what they do. But we have such a great staff, and like you said, from the top to the bottom, the chief, Mr. Fearborn, Mr. Crass, you guys just have the top down to the bottom. You do a magnificent job. They say the weakest link, you know, your weakest link, but we don't really have a weakest link in here. I think every link is strong from the bottom to the top, and that just makes the city grow so much. Mr. Tapp, all his work he's doing, all the stuff we've heard, all these TIP projects, these are very encouraging, because people have been wanting us to go somewhere for years, and now we're going to be moving out and make Mr. Tapp work and get him busy out there. But again, it was a great night. Mr. Pro Tem, you did a fantastic job. And all you do is say, go Chiefs.
Thank you, Mr. Circo. Mr. Burke?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Wanted to thank the constituents of Ward 2. I drove around about 7:30 for about 2 hours. That's about how long it took to drive all the roads in Ward 2. And for the most part, the crews had done an awesome job. I did talk to some people, and they wanted to know where was a good place to go sledding, and because they hadn't seen snow like this before in their lives, these children and their mother. But the people had a lot of patience. I think most people understood that this amount of snow is just impossible to deal with. I mean, what are we going to do, dump it in Silver Lake? We'd still run out of room then. But I want to thank the crews that drove around. I don't know if they got a break during the game or not, but I hope they did. And we're going to need to test our town's patience again this weekend. There's going to be another event. And I did notice, though, that there were a lot of impacts on trees that didn't happen until later in the day. When I drove around early in the day, it looked pretty good. There were a few trees. I took a picture of one tree that was completely gone in a home. But since then, we've lost a lot this week, and hopefully we don't continue to lose our trees. But hang in there. We're going to try to do something to help all those people that have lost trees and try to help them with those things. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Burke. Mr. Townsend?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. I have nothing tonight.
Mr. Kellogg?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. I have nothing else, so thank you.
All right, thank you, everybody. I just had a couple things. Everything really covered tonight. You know, Parks and Recs, want to commend you guys. You guys are really a shining star for our city, and with just everything that's going on there. Again, we're having a bunch of firsts there, and I'm really proud of what you guys are doing. And keep up the good work. Mr. Ike, congratulations. I know you're the right guy for the job. You did a great job. Mr. Tapp, thank you tonight for your help and going through. I know you had a lot to do. I want to thank everybody for their kind compliments. I was coached up tonight, and we did have a game plan. And I didn't study as much as Patrick Mahomes, but I did study a little bit for it because I didn't want to get beat tonight. So I did have one last thing that kind of brings it home. I had a friend of mine who's actually lives in Ward 1, but I office next to him, and he came in and he said, I know you're going to be at the meeting tonight, and I want you to tell the staff that he's lived in Raymore, built his house over 30 years ago, and seen a few snowstorms. They've had a few. We haven't had a lot, but had a few. But he said, the city has gotten better and better and better, and he lives in a cul-de-sac, so he knows he's not the first cleaned out, but when he went to bed that night, he woke up the next morning and looked out and wasn't expecting it, and his cul-de-sac was cleaned out. And he said that hadn't happened before, but he knows that, we've got more staff, better equipment, better planning and all that. So he wanted me to pass it on, that he was very, very, very impressed with what went on. He knew it was a big night and an unusual night, and he wanted me to send that out to the staff. Thank you very much. So that's all that I have, and I believe we have reason to go in executive session tonight for litigation. So I'd entertain a motion. Mr. Holman?
Sir, I'd like to ask your leave for one final comment prior to that.
All right.
Just something we should have brought up. It was my memory's jogged by Councilmember Burke. Staff did put together a plan. We have dumpsters out in place in front of City Hall where the construction's going on for limb removal. They can bring those limbs and yard debris here from the storm. Is that correct, Mr. Fearborn?
That is correct, and if you'll give us leave, I'll have Mr. Ike report out on that real quick.
Absolutely, Mr. Ike.
Starting tomorrow at 8 a.m., we will have dumpsters available for residents who want to bring limbs and brush from the storm. Only restriction is they cannot take lawn bags, so if anyone has any leaves that are still around. We'll have that open during normal business hours, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Once we get past 4 p.m., it starts to get a little dark. We'll also have those open on the weekends. Because of the weather forecasted for this weekend, we may limit those hours just because we wouldn't want people out in the storm itself. But from pretty much the rest of the week on after the storm, we'll have that available for our residents. They will need to show proof of residency. Some sort of an ID or a water bill will be sufficient.
Thank you, Mr. Ike. Mr. Holman?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. I move that we enter into executive session to discuss litigation matters as authorized by RSMO 610.021, subsection 1.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Ms. Warner, could I have roll call?
Yes.
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 Councilmember Burke?
Yes.
Councilmember Circo?
Yes.
Councilmember Holman?
Yes.
Councilmember Kellogg?
Yes.
Councilmember Townsend?
Yes.
All right, we will now go in executive session, and upon its completion, we'll come back to open session to adjourn from this meeting. Thank you.